I'm the sheriff of Riverside County.
And you decide, I'm going to throw my hat in and run for governor of California.
Yes. The last time leadership played a part in California was when Ronald Reagan was elected. My rise in leadership across the country was because of 2020, was because of Newsom's mandates, because I was the first person in the country in a position of authority to stand up and say, we're not going to do that here.
He is expecting us to arrest anyone violating these orders, cite them and take their money, close their businesses.
I'm going to eliminate state income tax for everyone.
How are we going to pay the bills?
The same way Texas does, the same way Alaska does, the same way the Dakotas do. Government doesn't have kids. Parents have kids, and parents raise their kids.
If Steve Hilton comes in, I say, well, what's your beef with Sheriff Bianco? What would he say?
He is claiming that I sided with BLM.
Do you have any regrets of how you handled that situation?
We set the tone for the country to end those riots.
It's often said in politics that the country goes the way of states like California. So whatever extremes are happening here politically, culturally, tend to show up eventually in the rest of the country. Well, as a native Californian myself, and because we film here out of California, I care deeply about what is happening in the state. And guess what? As you might know, Gavin Newsom, our current governor, is on his way out. He's likely going to be running, by the way, for president of the United States, maybe against J.D. Vance. We'll see and cross that bridge when we get there. But the race is on for the new governor in the state of California. And today on the show, I'm delighted to have the contender who is the top of the polls right now, believe it or not, for the California gubernatorial race, who is Sheriff Chad Bianco. Now, Sheriff Chad Bianco is a pro-life, pro-family candidate, and he has very strong opinions about many of the things that we care about on this show. I have also extended invitations to all of the other top contenders for the gubernatorial race. We'll see if they take me up on it, including Representative Eric Swalwell, Katie Porter, as well as Steve Hilton and others. Also, a huge thank you to everybody who's been subscribing to the show. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button if you're watching here on YouTube and give this video a like. Also, if you're listening over on podcast app, make sure you're subscribed over at Spotify or at Apple, and please leave us a review. Those reviews help the show rise in the ranks and reach more people. Chad Bianco, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
I should say Sheriff Chad Bianco.
They're both the same thing.
I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for coming on the show.
Of course.
I was excited to see your name, a pro-life Republican, pro-family Republican, at the top of the polls for the gubernatorial race that California is going to be voting on our next governor. Thank God we'll no longer have, God bless him, but Gavin Newsom. And I was like, I got to get to know this sheriff from Riverside County.
I'm glad.
Thanks for sitting down with me.
Yes, you're welcome.
And there have been multiple recent polls, and you are polling at the top.
Yes, we've actually been at the top for the last 4 months. And I think it's like 11 out of the last 13 polls. We've been number one. And the other ones I've been number two. So things are going very well. Message is resonating well. California is looking for change. And I think that my 32 years of doing what I'm doing or have been doing, I think that's fitting exactly what they're looking for to help rescue our beautiful state.
Mm. Now, we're going to run through your positions and some of your history. But first, for people who don't understand California, because we're a little unique in how we run our governor races.
Yes.
When I say you're at the top of the polls, we're talking about a poll that has both Republicans and Democrats and anyone else on it.
Right.
Can you give people a quick primer for how the races will happen for California for us to decide our next governor?
So we have what is called a jungle primary. So we are Democrats and Republicans, but we don't have a Republican primary and a Democrat primary. It is a jungle primary where everyone goes together, and the top two vote getters in the June election end up in basically a runoff election in the primary election in November. So it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican, your goal is to finish in the top two. If you don't finish in the top two, then obviously you do not get to go to November. And statistically, it's probably not ever going to happen, but statistically it could be two Democrats going to November, or it could be two Republicans going to November. It's a stretch, but it's certainly statistically possible.
So when is the first vote to decide who goes to the final vote? So June 2nd, you guys are all, and just to throw out some of the names that are out there, there's a bunch of Democrats like Katie Porter, Eric Swalwell, others. We're going to get into, you have a Republican opponent that we're going to talk about in a few minutes.
There's a lot. I think there's something like 108 total candidates, but there's probably like 6 or 7 prominent Democrats, and then really only 2 Republicans that are even polling at all. And it would be myself and Steve Hilton.
And you're at 20+%, depending on the poll.
Yes.
And so one other question, just for people who are in California, not as familiar, or outside of California. So when you hit June 2nd, right, is there a sense of what number you want to be at in those polls to make sure you're going to be one of those top two?
The number really doesn't matter. We're extremely confident we're going to be number one. And then whoever survives and makes it to number two, that's what we'll worry about into November.
Wouldn't it be crazy if it was two Republicans?
It would be crazy. It is extremely unlikely, but it's and then it's a completely different race. It's two different strategies. You can't have the same strategy for June that you have for November. June is just making sure that you're top one or two. And then November is all about changing California and policy type issues where it's a Republican conservative against a liberal progressive Democrat. Yes. That's really what it is.
Yes. All right. So give us the background on you, Sheriff.
Well, I was born and raised in Utah. My dad was in the Air Force at the time. I was born at Hill Air Force Base in Utah. We traveled to California, Lompoc. I don't remember that. So I had a little bit of a time spent living here, only for about a year. And then we moved back home. That's where my mom and dad were from. So I was raised there. I was raised in a family of three. My mom and dad were very young. My mom was 16 when she became pregnant. She turned 17 when she had me, but she was a senior in high school. And my dad 18, and he went off to Vietnam. So it was, my mom she struggled. They were very young. She jokes and says she didn't even know how she got pregnant. She didn't know. We make fun of her now, but luckily I had good grandparents and they helped, good great aunts that helped. And then my mom she ended up having 3 kids before she was 21.
Wow. So
all of their friends didn't have kids. So my mom and dad were very young and they didn't get to do the things that their friends were doing. They were parents. And so it was nice growing up with very young parents. I mean, I was their friend. They were our friends. They were great parents, but 3 kids, 3 boys, and small town, 1,000 people in my town. The entire county probably had 15, 18,000. So it was small, very rural, mining town in Utah. And I grew up very athletic. I was into everything. I eventually left the town because of athletics. I ended up getting a college scholarship to play baseball and ended up in Salt Lake City at the University of Utah. And then after that, moved to California. Baseball is what gave me my love for California. I came here to play in the Little League World Series I was 11. And I just fell in love with it. We were in Santa Monica. Everything about Santa Monica, I was absolutely in love with. And I told my mom and dad when I came home, I'm moving to California. And she made me promise to do it when I was an adult. Mm-hmm. So I did. 22, finished school and moved to California. I met my wife. Raised a beautiful family. We're very happy, very successful. I found law enforcement. I got into this profession and it suited me very, very well. I'm definitely a believer in God. As I progressed through life, I realized that we're supposed to be doing everything we can to do the things that we want and achieve the things that we want. But sometimes that's not what God wants us to do or where we're supposed to be. And, selfishly, I was supposed to be a Major League Baseball player and all of that stuff. But that isn't where God had me. I had no interest in law enforcement. I remember one of my friends was in the academy and was like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. And, it's a good career and paid more than what I was making at the time and good benefits. So I put myself through a sheriff's academy. And from day one, it was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I've had a fantastic career. Very happy that I got into it. And it's very rewarding. And for me, how I was raised by I don't want to say he was strict, but he made us grow up to be responsible kids. We had to abide by rules. You didn't
throw trash on the side of the road?
No, we were, they taught us responsibility and they taught us respect. And, I like saying I had probably 100 dads because I grew up in a very small mining town, very ethnic, different ethnic origins. Everyone came in the early 1900s to work in the coal mines, and the values were just very different. And it didn't matter if my dad was there. Someone else saw me. I was disciplined by someone else. And so I grew up with responsibility. I grew up caring about other people. There were many times where we would have to sacrifice things that we wanted to do, or vacation or something like that, because my dad was helping someone and we had to go help them. I had to do labor, help someone pour concrete or build a wall or something. We were just always helping people. And that was really the community that I grew up in. So that formed, I think, perfectly for me to be in law enforcement, because that's really our job every single day, is helping other people in an emergency situation. And I really, as an adult now looking back, that's where I get my joy. That's it. I mean, there's nothing else that entices me. It bothers my wife a little bit. She wishes I cared about money a little bit more than I do. But as long as we pay the bills, we're good. Being a millionaire wouldn't impress me. I'd like to win the lottery, but I don't really want to. It's just more problems. As long as I can help someone in either a high five or a handshake, or that even a look, you can tell when you help people in my line of work. They don't even have to say thank you. You can tell by the look on their face. And that makes me want to keep coming back and doing it over and over. So we raised our kids here. We have 4 kids. We have 5 grandkids now. And we are extremely happy in our lives, which brings me to this election.
Yes. Why did you decide to? And were you retired at this point as sheriff? You're still
I'm
practicing
still the
as sheriff.
Yes.
Sheriff of Riverside County.
I'm the sheriff of Riverside County.
And you decide, I'm going to throw my
county.
hat in and run for governor of California.
Yes. And along those lines, I never had that feeling of, I want to be governor. I came to the realization that I have to be governor. If California is going to change, we have to have something drastically different than what we have. And that what is coming next. I watched the people that were lining up to run for election on the Democrat side. You could tell who was coming on the Republican side. And being a part of government that I am, I'm the highest elected official in Riverside County, 2.5 million people.
So you elect sheriff in Riverside County.
You were elected.
So 2 million people elected you to be the top law enforcement guy in
twice.
Riverside County.
I was elected in 2018, reelected in 2022, and now my next election is 2028. So for this election, I am running as the current sheriff of Riverside County. We're the 2nd largest sheriff's department in the state, 4th largest in the country.
What's the 1st largest in California?
Los Angeles.
So only 2nd to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
EveryLife.com has premium diapers, baby products, and women's products. We use their diapers in our household, and they're made from the highest quality materials, are supremely soft and breathable, and are leak-proof for up to 12 hours. When you sign up for EveryLife.com's Changing Lives Club, you get 15% off every order, a free tote, an exclusive online community, and after your 3rd order, you can select a church or a pregnancy resource center, and EveryLife will donate a month's supply of diapers on your behalf. You get the best baby and women's products delivered right to your door, and you get to help moms and babies in need. If you use the code Lila at checkout, you'll get an additional 10% off your first order. Save lives with pro-life diapers, wipes, hygiene, and women's products over at EveryLife.com. Use code Lila at checkout. Every purchase that we make makes a difference. And that's why I'm so happy to partner with Patriot Mobile. They're not just a premium wireless service provider, giving you excellent service or even better coverage than all 3 of the major U.S. networks, but they're actively supporting the causes of faith, family, and freedom. You can keep your number and activate in minutes, and everything is backed by a 100% U.S.-based customer support team. Get everything you need and expect from a top-tier service provider while putting your money towards values you believe in. Right now, if you go to patriotmobile.com/Lila or call 972-PATRIOT with code Lila, you get a free month of service. Shop America, shop freedom at Patriot Mobile. That's patriotmobile.com/Lila or call 972-PATRIOT with code Lila for a free month today. Just for people to understand what it means to be the sheriff.
Sure.
To be the top elected member of government for Riverside County. You're the sheriff. You're in charge of keeping 2 million people safe.
Yes.
How do you do that?
It's a massive operation. And in the end, it sounds I would let everybody else tell you how you do it. And then they would point to me and say, that's how you do it. So it sounds funny coming from me. And I don't like bragging about myself or saying that it's
You're here to
anything
brag.
me.
I want you to tell us why
But
we should vote.
It's complete leadership.
Yeah.
The only reason we are successful is because how I was raised, what brought me to where I am today, the 32 years how I operated in a law enforcement career, it's leadership, it's integrity, it's honesty, it's leadership, it's doing things for other people instead of yourself. And I've emerged as a nationwide leader of law enforcement, especially in this state. And that is why we're successful. I didn't come into a massive organization of 4,400 employees and I do all the work. It's the vision that I create. It's the direction that I promote. It's the people that I put in place to manage that direction. And it's making sure that what I believe and what I want, what the voters voted for, that our organization is living up to that. It is following through with that. And that is pure leadership. And for me in this state, that is what we completely missing. We vote for bright, shiny objects. We vote for millionaires, billionaires, somebody with a shiny name or somebody with a flashy attitude. And we don't care about their integrity. We don't care about their ethics and their morals and their values. We don't even pay attention to it, and certainly not leadership ability. And we're putting the person in the very top position in our state, the person that controls the agenda of our government and our state. And we have no idea whether or not they can even lead people. And that's why we failed. I talk all the time about leadership. And truly in our government in California, the last time leadership ever played a part in California was when Ronald Reagan was elected. Ronald Reagan was elected because he was recruited for that position because of his leadership ability in the movie industry and in the Hollywood arena. That was his livelihood. And he was a well-known, well-respected leader with conservative values that was recruited to run for governor, and he won. And it was a godsend to California. It was a godsend to our country, but that was the last time. And ironically, it was 58 years ago that he was elected to the office. I know that because it was the year I was born. So it's been a long time. And I think that's the appeal that I have, why I'm leading in all of these polls. It isn't because anything special that Chad Bianco has to offer or Sheriff Chad Bianco. It's the leadership ability. It's the proven leadership. It's how I carry myself. I'm no better than anyone else. I'm just in a different position, one that I can affect people's lives. And I choose to do it in a productive manner rather than to benefit myself or for some other selfish reason. And that's really what we're missing in California government.
We really are. I mean, immediately it's flashing in my mind as Gavin Newsom during COVID. Yeah. And he's like shutting down everyone's grandmother's funeral and, shutting down the churches and everything else. And then he's at what's the name of the restaurant?
French Laundry.
The French Laundry with a group of people unmasked, hanging out, dining on like whatever he's dining on, souffle. Yes. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
And then it's like, oopsie. And everyone just is like, okay, whatever. And it's like, this is emblematic of the leadership, I would argue, of Gavin Newsom, is like rules for thee, but not for me, and just enriching himself constantly. I mean, he's become so successful financially. And again, not that you can't become successful financially, that's not inherently wrong, but you look at how he personally operates and you look at how, the problems that have plagued
Separate
California.
from everyone else.
And just like this is, and then of course his social policy. I mean, he just did this, song and dance press conference with his wife. Sorry, I've got to rant for 1 minute because it's one of the reasons I'm excited about your candidacy. But, just the extremism of Gavin Newsom. He has this song and dance press conference in the last couple weeks. And I know you're not running against Gavin Newsom, but you're running against Gavin Newsom wannabes.
I really am.
Katie Porter, Eric Swalwell. These are like, Gavin Newsom is he extreme enough for us? Like, we're going to one-up him.
And that's what's happening. They're doubling down on horrific policies that he has implemented and that he has even followed, that he followed some horrible ones, but then he's implemented the same of his own, some of his own, and then continued with the same. And the current ones coming after are doing the same thing. They're hailing him as a hero and then saying that they're even going to double down and do it bigger. more taxes, more cap and trade, more of the extremism that's being forced on us. So I really am running against Gavin Newsom.
Yes. I mean, the press conference recently, his wife was there too, and they're like laughing and gleefully about how they're going to give hundreds of millions of dollars to pay for abortions. And the press there were not impressed. Even the liberal press are like, oh gosh, like guys, this is a loser for us. Like California's like in this huge deficit and you're like spending money on abortions. Like that's going to save the day. And this like Mrs. Gavin Newsom gets up there and she's like, why aren't you guys more supporting us basically and against the war on women? I'm like, guys, that is so, I don't know, 2015. I don't know what year that was, that slogan, but it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Like people
at all.
Yeah. It's just like,
it's tone deaf.
What California needs isn't more abortions.
Yeah. And what destroyed California was not abortions. I mean, it's horrific.
Yes.
But it didn't destroy California. Your policies destroyed California, and we're tired of your policies.
Yes.
And so when we ask you about your policies, we want to know why you're destroying California and what you're going to do to stop it before you leave. And the answer is nothing. They just get mad.
Except fund abortions, I guess.
We're going to drop $100 million.
It's crazy.
For more free abortions.
So I've got to ask you another question about your work as the sheriff of Riverside County. What did success look like for you? I know you mentioned leadership obviously is your job. That's how you see it. You're there to serve. But in terms of how you made life better for the people, the residents of Riverside County, what did that look like for you as sheriff?
Yeah, so it's kind of like almost like an 8-year, 7-year. I'm in my 8th year now, and it's almost looking back. It's the difference in public safety in Riverside County in 2018 compared to 2026, and it's night and day. And that part about Gavin Newsom and my popularity and my rise in leadership across the country was because of 2020, was because of Newsom's mandates, because I was the first person in the country in a position of authority to stand up and say, absolute ridiculous, and we're not going to do that here.
What was it that you were saying we're not going to do in Riverside County in 2020?
We did not arrest anyone for not wearing a mask. We did not arrest anyone for not closing their business. If we did not arrest you for going to a restaurant, we did not arrest you for going to churches. And those were all the things that they were telling us they wanted done with all of the mandates. And
you just said, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
This is my county. I won't do it.
Right.
Now, are you allowed to do that, by the way? What's the law?
Yes.
The governor has the mandate and you're like, no, I don't want to do it that way.
Yes. So the interesting part about that is, and I used to say it, it's like these are unconstitutional rules. They were not laws. They were never laws. Had they gone to the legislature and said, we are going to pass these laws that you as a resident can have to wear a mask, or you can't go to church, or you can't open your business, you can't shop in stores that we didn't tell you were good enough to shop in. If they would have made it a law, that would have been much more difficult for me. I could still have said, no, we're not going to do it, but I would be technically violating that law by not enforcing it. And there's, unfortunately, you can be removed from office if you do that, if you violate a law.
Even if you're mounting a constitutional challenge that has to play out in the court system, you still have to, in the interim, abide by the law or lose your position.
I would have probably been removed from office. Wow. We would have sued, but we would have won. We would have eventually won on constitutional grounds. But these orders in particular in 2020 were just Newsom's orders. Yeah. It was just a political agenda, seeing how much they could get away with and imposing them upon us. And as the sheriff, I said no. So in California, we have a lot of discretion as law enforcement officers, particularly from misdemeanor down. As a felony, we really don't. I can't, if I know you have a felony warrant, I have to arrest you. If you commit a felony and I know you committed that felony, I have to arrest you. But misdemeanors is a discretion. Misdemeanors are a tool where I could, if you, I don't know what, driving without a license, that's a misdemeanor technically. And I can tell you, look, this is why you need to get a license. I'm going to let you go this time, but you need to go get a driver's license. And it's a warning basically, but to get you to hopefully go do the right thing. So I do have a lot of discretion, but in this particular case, it was twofold. I knew it wasn't a law. It was an order, which technically I have to abide by orders because there's another law that says that. But these were completely unconstitutional orders. And I gave a speech in front of the Board of Supervisors with the day that I knew they were going to follow the governor's orders. And I said, it's not going to happen here. I'm not taking away resources, law enforcement resources, from keeping us safe, from rapists, robbers, burglars, drug dealers, thieves, all of those things, and make a criminal out of a single mom who's trying to put a roof over the head of her children. And I said, it's never going to happen. It's not happening here. And when I did that I shot onto the national stage because nobody had done that. No one was standing up for what we all felt was common sense. And Riverside County benefited from that immensely. We brought businesses to Riverside County that were being forced closed in other places. We bought residents that wanted to go to restaurants or church. They moved to Riverside County to do that. Employees, we had vaccine mandates where people were getting fired. Anyone in law enforcement that got fired for not taking a vaccine, I hired them. If they applied for us, we hired them. We made it to where the politics and the agenda were taken out of it, and we're just common sense, legal law, constitution, all of those things. And that's what, it skyrocketed me on the national stage. So that was, for the beginning of me, that was the change in Riverside County. And that was the change in our agency of what my goal was for us is by the time I left, I wanted to be the best law enforcement agency in the country. If you talk about like me growing up, law enforcement was LAPD or NYPD. I mean, those were, let's see what LA is doing. Let's see what New York is doing. And that was the epitome of law enforcement. And I wanted to be Riverside Sheriff. And I took a almost failing organization. Morale was horrible. We were so short on employees, not operating how we should. Public safety was a disaster in California. We weren't fighting crime. We weren't addressing issues. I changed the way we operated. We went to instead of fighting crime, we attacked quality of life issues. So whatever your quality of life is, that's my main priority. So I have 2.5 million quality of life issues that we address in Riverside County because that's what concerns you. And if you're going to call us, we're going to make sure that is our top priority, is making sure that your life and whatever's affecting you is being made easier when we leave. And it was successful. And so now I am one of the most respected law enforcement agencies in the country. We are looked at to see how we're doing things right and to see, what mistakes we made and how did we fix them. And I'm sending deputies all across the country to train other people on what we're doing. One of the things that I'm just super, super proud of, just because of other things in my career that I did, is crimes against children. As a dad, as a man, as an adult, as a cop, we have to protect kids. Kids can't protect themselves. Adults sometimes can protect themselves, but truly kids cannot. And when adults are going to victimize them, or when adults need protection, if their parents aren't going to do it, then the cops have to. And I have to make sure that they're safe. So we've had a massive shift toward protecting our kids from human trafficking, from sex trafficking, molestation, abuse, all of those things. And we train other people in the country on what we're doing right and how successful we are. So that's success for me. It's not personal success. It was my life as a law enforcement officer, my identity as a lawman. I wanted the agency that I worked for to be the best. And we truly are. I mean, we're not done. We're not perfect. There's a lot of things that we can always strive to be the best. And if you strive to be the best, you probably are the best, because there's not too many people that are striving every single day to be better than they were yesterday. And that's what I want the mission of our agency to be. And it seems to be working well.
So I would love to explore just for a minute what this has looked like in Riverside County. Let's talk about the kids for a minute. Cops, our job is to protect kids.
Yeah.
We protect kids. And you mentioned abuse, molestation. There's obviously trafficking, which is horrible. When you show up, 2018, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is your new job. You got 8 years. You got to fix this. As you said, it was failing in many ways. What did it look like? What did your policies look like, or your changes look like? And you're not just talking about who are we going to arrest. You are looking at the causal, what are the factors that are causing this, and how can we use our agency and work with the rest of the city to solve, or the county to solve these issues? What did it look like to make Riverside County safer for kids in the last, going on 8 years?
It's really enforcement. It was, there are laws on the books that were not being enforced that we have a zero tolerance for. And we have a policy of a relentless pursuit of criminals. If you're going to victimize anyone in Riverside County, particularly a child, we are going to find you, we are going to hold you accountable, and we are going to save or rescue that child from that abuse. So I doubled the size of our human trafficking team. We put way more money than had ever been utilized in that arena toward technology to help them identify suspects, identify victims, rescue victims. And it really was just a mindset change. My agenda was letting deputies know that this is your goal. Go out and do it. And if you can't do it, then let us know as an administration what we need to provide you to make sure you have the tools to do it. So it was training, it was resources, it was money, it was equipment, it was adding more personnel to those arenas, to those task forces, partnering with other task forces as a force multiplier. So we make sure that we do that. And I started that arena for Riverside County in 2005. I was responsible for a sting operation that we did to basically arrest people who were attempting to or were molesting kids using online access to gain contact with them. And we cooperated, I guess you could say, with Dateline, NBC Dateline. We brought Dateline in and they recorded a 3-day operation where we arrested 51 people for traveling all over Southern California, one from another state. And they were coming to molest a 12 or a 13-year-old boy or girl. And we arrested them, and it was shown to the country.
I remember those.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was you behind that. And that was before becoming sheriff?
Yes. I was a supervisor.
Wow.
I was a sergeant in our department and of a detective bureau that we saw this issue was happening, and we wanted to do something big to try and stop it. And it eventually became NBC's number one, it still is NBC's number one rated series or program, the Dateline to Catch a Predator. And
that's amazing.
When I did that, after we did it and it aired, when we knew how big it was, and we knew that it was bigger than what we thought. And so we laid the groundwork up until the time that it aired. And then right after it aired was a board meeting that the administrator back at the time went to the board and said, we have a massive issue that we just showed and we need resources. And they formed 2 task forces. They formed the SAFE task force and a SPIDER task force. And it was basically it was to protect kids, and it was an online. It was 2 things together. The sheriff before me stopped it. New sheriff, he ended it. I took over. We redid it. The DA at the time was running a lot with it. He was trying to do what he could. And we just gave more resources to him. We've combined them now into one program that actually the DA runs. The umbrella is under the DA's office now, and we just provide more resources and more investigators to make sure that we do that. But super proud of that. Super proud of that, what we did for the country. I helped hundreds of other agencies across the country do the same type of operation. I even helped Scotland Yard do one in London. I wish they would have sent me over there. I did it all by phone, but it was fun. It was very rewarding because we knew at the time that it was such a massive problem.
I have been using and loving my Cozy Earth bed sheets, bathrobes, pajamas, and blankets, and they are a family favorite. Cozy Earth's bamboo pajama set is a classic, made from 100% viscose from bamboo, and it will be the most comfortable PJs of your life, helping you sleep your best. Cozy Earth's classic cuddle blanket is also incredible. It's plush, warm, and oh so soft. Every purchase from Cozy Earth also comes with a 100-night sleep trial guarantee. Love it or return it for free, as well as a 10-year warranty, so you know it'll last at least a decade. This month, wrap yourself or someone you love in the comfort of Cozy Earth. Head over to CozyEarth.com and use my code Lila for up to 20% off. And if you get a post-purchase survey, be sure to mention that you heard about Cozy Earth right here. That's CozyEarth.com, code Lila. Figuring out the right daily nutrition can feel overwhelming, but one thing that I consistently rely on are the supplements from WeHeartNutrition.com. I'm a huge fan of We Heart Nutrition. It is a pro-life, family-owned business that donates 10% of every purchase to pro-life causes. We Heart Nutrition makes premium research-backed supplements here in the USA for men and women at every stage of life in the supplement's most bioavailable form for maximum absorption and digestion. From preconception to pregnancy, postpartum, menopause, and more. I personally take the postnatal supplements and have been taking them since I gave birth to our last baby, and it has helped me feel healthier than ever after my last pregnancy. You can take We Heart Nutrition's 2-minute quiz to figure out which supplements can best benefit your state of life at weheartnutrition.com and use the code Lila for 20% off your order. That's weheartnutrition.com and use the code Lila for a full 20% off your order. What I think a lot of people may not realize is there's a lot of discretion, right, for law enforcement in terms of resource allocation, what to focus on in terms of investigating crimes and prosecuting crimes. And that's where if you're not focused on the things that matter, or you're not allocating enough to the least of these, the victims, children in this case, then there might not be justice for them.
Yeah.
Because the bureau's distracted or working on other things.
Right.
And I think that child first mentality is so key. Have you seen more arrests made under your leadership of child predators, or like what does that look like in terms of the outcomes for arrests or for prosecutions or convictions or, you know, anything in that area?
Yeah, I think statistically in the beginning there were a lot more arrests, but then that tapers down if you're doing
You're creating
a good
safer
job.
community.
Right.
They don't want to, and they also don't want to come here. It's like,
Right.
we don't want to be a pedo in Riverside County
That's
because
exactly
they're going
right.
to get me.
I mean, it's very well known. It's
Yeah.
very well known in the online community. We still have investigators in those chat rooms, in those. I mean, even Snapchat. I mean, it is so easy to get access to our kids. So we have the intel. We have the resources that are put into those things to make sure that we're monitoring, to find victims, to find, you know, human trafficking systems and the people responsible for them. And we go attack them, and we go find out. But in those systems, we also know that they talk about Riverside County. They don't want to go to Riverside County, or they're aware that law enforcement is very active in undercover operations and finding out who they are. So we know that we've lowered it, and it's unfortunately, it's one of those things where it's like, well, my detractors will say, well, prove to me that you lowered it. It's like, well, I can't prove something that didn't happen. It's like, it's impossible to take all the resources away and then wonder what it would have looked like now.
Has it gone up in other counties? I know that, you know, the proliferation of child sexual assault material, as an example, CSAM has gone up.
It's actually
in the last decade, like an incredible amount, which is terrifying.
Yeah, not across all jurisdictions, but it certainly has in some. And we know that criminal behavior and criminal activity goes where it's easy. Mm-hmm. If there's the threat of getting caught, if there's the chance of getting caught, criminals will avoid it. Criminals will stay away. So there are so many different aspects of crime and how to identify them, and how to not only chase the reporting, but then follow up with the arrests and everything else. It's hard to statistically come up with something that you can say, oh, look how great we did. It's because I'm not a fan of statistics, because I can twist statistics to mean something for me. But if you don't believe me, or if you think differently than me, you can use those same numbers and twist them into something different. And yours are not necessarily untrue, but neither are mine. They both say something different, but we use it for our own benefit. So that's why statistics aren't.
How would you measure, if not statistics, if not like
people feel? How
people feel.
So, and I'll give you an example. Do you feel like California is safer today than it was 10 years ago?
No.
No one does.
No.
But these statistics that the governor is going to promote.
This is the gaslighting of San Francisco.
Yeah.
They say statistically San Francisco is safer, but then people don't feel safe in San Francisco. And they say, well, my friend just got mugged and that wasn't happening 10 years ago.
Right.
But you're telling me I'm safer.
Yeah. So, and they're twisting the statistics. And then in California, they've changed the laws to where crimes aren't crimes anymore. So if before 2014, when we legalized almost everything in California, made everything change from a felony to a misdemeanor, we don't report those anymore. Theft is no longer reported as a theft because it's less than $950. So it's petty theft, which now doesn't get reported the same way. So the statistics for theft show a drastic decrease in crime. Overall crime is down. Well, that's because people don't report it anymore. It's not a crime. So you're twisting what the numbers even show for your benefit. But yet we know in California, I know my deputies right now are far more busier than I was when I was a deputy. I feel sorry for them sometimes. The amount of calls that they are going to, the types of calls that they're going to, it's far worse than when I was a deputy 30 years ago.
Why do you think that is?
Because crime's getting worse.
But why?
Because crime in California is enabled. We are enabling criminal behavior. There is no consequence. We have since 2012, we had criminal justice reform. That's what California was pushed on all of us.
Right.
And when I tell you that we need to reform something, you're going to agree with me because you know what the word reform means. Something is broken and we're going to make it better. So if I say, hey, we need to reform the criminal justice system, of course you're going to say, yes, we do. But the reality of California criminal justice reform was a love affair with criminals. They don't care. The lawmakers that have passed all these horrific laws don't care about the victims. They don't care about law-abiding Californians. They care about suspects that they label as victims of society because we made them commit crimes. We made them do something wrong because we didn't take care of them socially. So there's no personal responsibility for bad behavior. So you're enabling more and more criminal activity. And that's what we see as cops.
So in Riverside County, do you guys make more arrests than like say LAPD?
I think we did at one point, but then our crime isn't
just
the
got
same.
Safer.
Yes.
So crime is less. Is crime better in Riverside? There's less crime in Riverside County now than there was in 2018.
I'm going to say yes. So crime all across the country went up. Ours in Riverside County didn't go up as much as everybody else's did, but crime is obviously going up just because of the environment that California is in and culture.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And you can't help that.
But you're saying
just have to fight
your
it.
crime isn't as high as other counties.
Right.
And you're in it. And if it's gone up slower than other counties has gone up.
And we use the metric of what do California residents feel? What do Riverside County residents feel? And overall, my residents feel like their deputies are doing a fantastic job. They feel safe. They feel like they're being protected. They feel like we are doing everything we can to fight violent crime and crime in general.
I do think the posture of the relationship between the average person and the cops, like are the cops decent? Are the cops going to show up when we need them? Are the cops, are they caring about the things that I care about and focus on the things I want them to focus on? That does go a long way for the feelings of safety of people. I do think there's probably a disconnect between objective standards of safety, but to your point, it's very convoluted today.
It is.
San Francisco's that case in point. You know how San Francisco just talked about, oh, crime has gone down. Like, no, it hasn't, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what about, so there's crime, that's one bucket. But as sheriff, you were doing more than addressing crime in terms of arresting people. You were also
quality of life.
Yeah, so tell me what that looks like as sheriff to be helping improve people's quality of life in Riverside County.
So quality of life doesn't necessarily have to be a crime. It could be a problem in your neighborhood, anything, a bad neighbor, a horrific neighbor that really isn't breaking the law, but he is terrorizing the neighborhood. We will address that. We will address it with the person. We'll do everything we can legally through the criminal justice system, but also just going out and kind of hopefully educating the neighbor. It's like, look, you're destroying your entire neighborhood because of your attitude. And we just all want you getting along. Stop. We have to stop them from calling us on you, but it's your behavior that's causing it. And I mean, that's an off the wall, way to describe it, but it could be any quality of life. It could be
pit bulls on the loose.
Absolutely.
We had one of those in our neighborhood not long ago.
Yeah.
There was just a pit bull. And I said, what is this?
Yeah. So that's a whole nother animal to open up with animals in California, because we have, from a law enforcement perspective, when we have animal issues, that's animal control's responsibility. And I'm not a fan of animal control. I wish they fell under law enforcement. They fell under me.
That would make sense to me.
It makes sense to me, but they won't put it under me. And
because the point of animal control is the safety of people.
Right.
And yeah, you treat the animals with dignity. You treat the animals with dignity, but the number one
abuse
priority.
Of animals and everything else.
Yeah, that's true. But the number one priority in the end will be human safety.
Yeah. And there's no enforcement. We have rules and we have laws, but there's no enforcement. Everything is social and everything is, we don't want to offend anybody and we don't want to make anybody mad. And it's like, well, It's past that point, and we need to take action. And so the state is broken in the way it protects animals or protects people from animals or animals from people. And I mean, that's a whole nother side story of what we'll have to deal with when you become governor.
When you said the 2.5 million, I might have misheard you. When you said, I think it was 2.5 million.
There's 2.5 million residents in Riverside County.
So when you said the 2.5 million's concerns about safety, part of what you've prepared your department to do is receive concerns and be able to address them in a more personalized way, even if it doesn't have to do with outright law breaking.
Absolutely.
It sounds like. So it's like that neighbor who's just seems threatening or like not being neighborly. Can you go chat with him? I mean, what does it look like practically? What do you have your guys do?
We respond to everything. There are law enforcement agencies across the state and across the country that no longer respond to certain crimes. We respond to everything. Yeah. We respond to everything and we prioritize it. I mean, there are some people that are angry that it took us 4 hours or 6 hours to get to their call, but we have to prioritize them too because we're answering everything and we're limited in how many people are actually working in the day. In order to get to that call, we have to prioritize them. A crime against a person that's happening right now is obviously a bigger priority than I had an argument with my neighbor because he cut my tree. So we have to prioritize, but we're going to respond to everything and we're going to do everything we can. The deputies know that you respond to every call and it is your job to resolve that issue before you leave. And we do everything we possibly can to try and make that happen, and sometimes it doesn't have to be arrest someone. If it has to be arrest somebody, then that's what has to happen. But if a peaceful resolution can come because of the actions that the deputy's taking, then that emergency in your life is now handled. And that's really what a 911 call is. It is your emergency, the most important thing in your life at the time, and we are coming out there to handle it for you.
Is your goal you're helping to solve the emergency, but how do you focus on fostering more community trust, right? Because the ideal is people are not calling 911 on their neighbors, right?
Yeah. So that's the feeling that people know that the deputies are responding and handling that situation. There was before I ran for office, I mean, it was deputies don't show up. Deputies don't do anything. I had all these problems and that I knew that wasn't true because I knew who I worked with. I knew what deputies wanted to do and I knew what we tried to do. It was just not the direction of the department. So everybody wasn't forced to be doing the same thing. And we just changed not only our approach to how we did things, but in doing that, we changed people's perception of what we were doing. So now they see us constantly. They see us in their neighborhoods all the time. When they call, they know if you're going to be late to that call, dispatch will call them back and say, we're coming. We're still on our way. Or the deputy will call and say, I was on my way to your call and I had to stop this car. As soon as I finish this, I'm still coming. You don't have to call again. We're going to be there. So it's just taking more of a personal responsibility in making sure that the community that you're protecting and the community that you're serving is taken care of. I changed our motto to service above self. The service that we are providing goes in front of you taking care of yourself. You sacrifice yourself, you sacrifice your time. Unfortunately, we know that in our lives, we sacrifice our family sometimes. But that's what we got into. That's how I want to be better, is making sure that the people that we serve are more important than us.
So I want to get into your policy differences between yourself and some of the folks you're running against. Yeah. Now there's the Democrat bucket, which the differences are going to be pretty extreme. We're going to get into that night and day. And then there's this Republican-ish bucket. And then I want to get into the criticisms that you have of some of your, folks next to you running as Republicans, as well as the criticisms that they have levied against you and your response to that.
Sure.
So let's start with the Republican bucket. There's another gentleman running right now for governor named Steve Hilton. Mm-hmm. And we were talking briefly about him before you sat down. I was asking about, your thoughts, the differences. How do you see your leadership and policies as different from Hilton's?
The difference is one of us is a leader and the other one is not. Mm. And it's not just me saying that. I mean, I've never heard him say he's a leader. At least he's not going to lie and tell you he is. He's never done anything to prove anything otherwise. And
What's his background that you would say that about him?
He's a political strategist. His entire adult life has been a political strategist. And a political strategist's mission is to convince you of something that either may or may not be true. And for him, thankfully, we have history that proves that it's not true. I mean, he was a political, and he's not even from the United States. It was a political strategist in another country with a completely different government, running different beliefs than American government. And we know from history that in that strategy that he was responsible for, he convinced an entire country that they were going to change their country in a more fiscally conservative Republican manner. And they were elected. The person that was his boss was elected. But then quickly the government found out they weren't anything close to conservative Republicans. They were very liberal. They were very globalist.
What country is this?
England.
So he basically helped run a campaign for
David Cameron.
And he said, we're so conservative. It's going to be great. We're going to not be like those other guys. And then you're saying they didn't fulfill those promises.
Right.
But he was very good at making the promise in your view.
They made the promise. Yeah. They convinced everybody of something that wasn't true. And then when they got into office, they changed. And they went very green, very left, very liberal, very globalist.
Now, Steve Hilton might say, if he was here, I'm going to guess, and we're going to try to have him on the show to talk what he wants to say. But he's going to say, well, that was any faults are the bosses. You know,
it was his strategy.
I would do it differently. I mean, I don't know what he'd say, but maybe something along those lines.
But we know that he was the chief strategist. He was behind the entire thing. And then when the country found out that they had been duped, he was unelected. And I mean, I'll say this, Steve was run out of England. He didn't voluntarily come to America. His political career was over in England because they figured him out and it was over. He had to come to America. And
he came to California.
I don't know where he came to. I don't know if he started here or
How long has he been a resident here?
Well, I think 10 years maybe, maybe a little bit more than that. He's been 5 years maybe as a citizen. So it's relatively new. But his past and my past are completely different. Mine is based on one of truth, of integrity, honesty, leadership, and his is about political strategy for a personal end. Personal means for an end. And I've never flip-flopped. That's the difference. We don't like politicians because politicians say one thing and do something else. That's his entire life. Mm. And it's a little bit frustrating for me in this world right now, knowing in California that we absolutely must change from Democrat. Every 20 years we elect a Republican governor. So even Steve
California gets bad enough and they're like, let's get the Republican in.
Yeah. So even Steve knew several years ago, we've all known that this was going to be the election, that if we were going to win Republicans, it was going to be this one, because every 20 years we do it. And California is horrible right now. So a lot of things are going wrong to convince people, let's go a different path. And so, like, for instance, my entire life, there is nothing about me other than fiscally conservative Republican. Everything about my life says that I'm a Christian, conservative Republican. When Steve first came to the United States, he formed a business to raise money for the Democrat Party. His candidate—
And that was like 10 years ago.
That was in 2016.
Okay, so
15.
that was—
I mean, even to the point where he has said that he wanted Bernie Sanders to be president. And he did not support President Trump originally, but then jumps on the bandwagon because he sees that's where everybody else is going, and now has changed his tune for this. So he's not a Republican. He's a globalist, self-proclaimed. He won't say he's a globalist. He says he's a populist. But when you look at what he's done, what he did in England, it's globalist. That is not Republican. That is what California is technically doing now. The socialism, globalist, everybody the same, and all those things. That's what we're fighting against, but that's his core beliefs. And so everything is completely opposite about he and I. My life is based on integrity and honesty. Law enforcement, I can be fired for lying. I can lose my position for lying. In law enforcement world, we call it you lie, you die. That's just a phrase we have that if you lie, you can no longer be a cop because you can never go to court. You can never arrest
Not
someone.
trustworthy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's how it should be. But along those lines, in this election, for all of you out there watching and listening, you can be rest assured that I'm the only one telling you the truth 100% of the time. And so if someone else is saying something different, you can be guaranteed that I'm not lying. So you might have to question that.
If you lie in your campaign, could you be fired for that?
Technically, I can be removed or prevented, or it's basically going to taint all of the deputies that work under me.
Interesting.
If your boss is a liar,
If you're
then
caught in
the
a
whole
verifiable
organization, right? Then the
Wow.
whole organization is dishonest and distrustful and everything else, and this is their agenda. So we also have peace officers. We have a certificate now that the state controls. So our ability to be peace officers is because we have a law enforcement certificate that can be revoked if we violate those law enforcement rules. So the state of California can take away my peace officer powers, my ability to be a peace officer, if I violate those rules. And if that happens, then I'm not qualified to be the sheriff. So I can't be the sheriff if I'm not even a law enforcement officer. It's nuanced and it's technical, but that's been my life. My life is about honesty, integrity, transparency, and you just do the right thing for the right reasons. And it doesn't matter what the consequences are because you're always telling the truth and you always do something right. And that's the difference between he and I.
So if Steve Hilton comes in, and we're going to invite him on the show, we'll see if he shows up. But if he's welcome to join the show. I'm going to invite Katie Porter on the show. I'm going to invite Erica Swalwell. We're going to invite them all. I'm glad you're here first. So if Steve Hilton comes in, I say, well, what's your beef with Sheriff Bianco? What would he say?
I'm standing in his. Well, he's not going to say anything. I'm standing in his way of winning.
But what's his criticism of you? He does have I was just looking at it yesterday.
His only criticism of me right now is he is claiming that I sided with BLM in the riots of 2020. When the reality of that was right at the same time that I hit the national stage with COVID and standing up to COVID, I also hit the national stage for standing up to BLM and eliminating them from our county. And we did it with overwhelming force. But the one particular thing that he's claiming, and he's being dishonest in his representation because he knows he has to harm me to elevate himself. His qualifications are not going to put him above me in this campaign. So he somehow has to harm me. My campaign is based on honesty, integrity, leadership. And so what does he have to do? He has to attack honesty, integrity, and leadership. So he's making up all of these allegations that I'm not being honest, that I don't have any leadership ability, and I don't have any integrity. And in this particular case, back in 2020, there was right when it started going from, I don't want to say peaceful protest, it was never peaceful, but when it went from protest to violent, we told them it was over. We told them, you have 20 minutes. This is now an unlawful assembly. We're going to physically, violently, maybe remove you from this area. And the organizers at the time, I had met with them several days prior and going over the ground rules and everything else. I had been with them for hours on the front line. We had 1,200 officers that were there on the front line, roughly about 10,000 protesters. And I had been in between those two groups. There's a line of deputies and cops behind me. Protesters are all this way, and I'm in the middle. And we were making sure that everything was perfect. We will protect your right to protest, but we're not going to allow you to break the law. And so I told them it was over, and they thanked me for everything that we had done for the last several hours, and they asked if they could pray for my deputies. I'm never going to say no to that. So they asked people around them to pray. I asked deputies if they wanted to pray. I told them I couldn't force anybody, but if they want to, they can. And we prayed. So the pictures and the video snippets that are being posted by Steve and paid for by Steve for everybody to see today is just saying, look, he kneeled to BLM. And so you have that connotation that by bending a knee or by kneeling to BLM means that I cowered to BLM or I sympathized with them or I was on their side. Well, that doesn't go together with an organization that was basically a mortal enemy of law enforcement. They were a domestic terrorist organization that hated cops. So how am I a national leader of law enforcement right now if I bent the knee to a domestic terrorist organization that hates cops?
In this incident that Steve Hilton's talking about, and I've watched the video, right? So you see it all, you can see it all in videos. It's there. Are you saying that the organizers, the BLM, because not all BLM is monolith. There's some people that earnestly went out.
My friends.
Yeah, friends.
I had friends and extended family members that were there.
Because there was a true sympathy for some people who have been victims of, there have been events of police brutality that does exist.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean that all police are bad? No. So there's the nuance, right? Yeah. And there was overwhelming sympathy for, you watch anyone killed on camera or die on camera. Afterwards, it was discovered he had all these, drugs in his system and stuff. But you watch that and it's devastating, right? And so, of course, there's an understanding of, and Derek Chauvin is in jail for it. Right. And now, will he be let go of jail? I mean, there's obviously this whole debate around that. But the point is to watch a gentleman, ultimately a person made in God's image, any human being killed on camera is going to create sympathy and concern. And then you're going to get concerned about, is the police doing the best tactics here? And is there police brutality here?
And that's what brought the protesters out there.
Right. So I'm not, they weren't all rioters trying to burn it down. Some of them
they weren't all bad.
Yes. So when you were talking to those people on the front line and you're having this interaction, they're asking to pray. Was that a friendly, it sounds like it was a very friendly interaction because you were not afraid of them. You got on your knees in front.
I was not afraid. I was not afraid of them.
On their knees.
And they weren't afraid of the deputies. I mean, there were 3 real organizers that organized the event, that got their permits and all of those things. They did the right thing. But we all knew that we were watching LA burn the night before. So there were gun battles.
It was getting heated up. And that's when you said you guys got to stop now because it could get violent was your concern.
Yes. And we waited until it did. So the first bottle that got thrown at us, that's when I said, okay, it's over now.
So there was a bottle thrown.
Oh, yes, absolutely. There were several all at once. That's what every one of those protests, not everyone, the majority of those protests at the time, that's what they turned into. They were all peaceful protests until they weren't, but they all ended up, or the majority of them ended up not. And then what we see on TV was when they spiraled because there was no enforcement. So there was no one stopping it.
So the getting down on one knee, was this after the bottle was thrown?
No.
Oh, I see.
That was a half hour before.
Okay. So things were peaceful at that point.
Yes.
And
it was getting to, it was at the point where I said, okay, it's over now. Mm-hmm. We're going to give you 30 minutes to clear out. This is an unlawful assembly. We made the announcements of the unlawful assembly, told everybody that they had to leave. I told them that they had to leave. At the time, they told me basically, thank you. Your deputies were unbelievably professional when they probably shouldn't have been because of how we were being treated. And then they told me what we could expect. They told me where the weapons were, what was going to be used against us, the general description of the people they were all dressed the same, the Antifa types that were going to be instigating the crowd and that were going to be driving what was going to come next. They knew what was coming next. That's what we had planned for. And so when I told them it was over, they thanked me. Everything's good. They had been in my office prior days. And before they left, we prayed that everything was going to end up well. So that night they said, can we pray for your deputies? We know this is not going to end well. Can we pray for everybody's safety? And I said, yes.
Now, did they ask you to kneel?
Yes.
I see.
So in hindsight,
you feel like they were trying to trick you? Or?
Well, I don't. Well, if I looked back now, I could say possibly.
Yeah.
But
because they wanted that gotcha shot of you. At that time in
the heat of the moment, and this is the problem that I have where I get so frustrated with people, because there's a lot of people saying that I should have known better and I should have done something different. Well, that's easy for you to say sitting in your living room.
Keyboard warrior.
Exactly. From the safety of your television. Mm-hmm. But I was in front of 10,000 people yelling death to cops, calling me and my parents every name in the book, and mixed in with some of my friends. Now, I couldn't believe that they were there. I didn't want them there, but that was still their right to do it. So we maintained the safety and security of the protesters, but at the same time, we had to protect the buildings. We had to protect the businesses. We had to protect the people that lived there. We had to protect the people that weren't there to be violent. And when it became violent, we ended it. And so, to be very brutally honest, I was the first person in the country to actually end their riots, to the point where I had conversations with the sheriff of Los Angeles saying, you've got to do the same thing. you can't let this get snowball out of control. You have to end it now. And then they eventually did. It took them a couple of days because they were kind of a little bit behind the 8 ball, but we never got behind the 8 ball. We eliminated them at the time. So in hindsight, looking back, were we played? Maybe, but I don't care. I know what I did during that time was the exact right thing to do. I know that everything that happened that day worked out perfect because we had no injuries. We had no businesses looted. We had no businesses damaged. We had them eliminated from our downtown. No fires, no buildings burned down, nothing of the sort. And to this day, they haven't come back. They've gone into everywhere else, but they haven't come back to Riverside County. And we follow them online. We follow the groups that are organizing all these paid protests because that's what they are. And they warn people, don't go to Riverside County.
Well, and I think like saying, okay, I'll kneel to pray. You just said it. And in the moment, yeah, I'll kneel to pray. It's not thinking of a bigger agenda of getting a gotcha moment for politics or something.
Right.
And you held your line. Like you said, you prevented property damage. You prevented a riot from forming. And I think, again, we'll hear Steve Hilton give his best case if he comes on about why, that's just unacceptable or whatever. But I'm like, big deal. Big deal.
Yeah.
Is it wrong to kneel to pray as a cop in public? Is that wrong? Is that like against code? I've never heard of that. I don't know if there is.
I'm not going to defend him because he's being dishonest about the whole thing, but he's going to say, this is where he is attacking my leadership, integrity, and honesty, because his answer is I'm lying. His answer is that I'm making that up, that we didn't pray, because in his little video, there's no mention of praying. So therefore, Chad Bianco's a liar. That's his position. And I tell everyone this, everyone, I don't care what you think. I care what the 1,200 cops there think. And the 1,200 cops that were there know exactly what happened that night. They know that I didn't kneel to BLM. They know I didn't side with them one single bit. They know that we were asked to pray.
So was that happened off camera? Like, how does that work then? You guys were discussing, they said, hey,
we don't know where those cameras came from. They're not ours. I mean, they're cell phones.
So what was the time sequence? And then we can move on to some of the policy stuff. But the time sequence was they asked you to pray. And then the interview with the news lady, there was only one news lady there, and she didn't come there until after. So she came there after it was over, but then I sat there and interviewed with her. And so she's got her camera, she's sitting on the ground with her camera, and has me kneeling there on the camera. And I did an interview with her on the camera. Do I maybe regret that part? Yes, but I still wouldn't change it. I don't care, because I know what we were doing at the time. And it's the decisions that I have to make that are different than everyone else. Is my decisions involve or could involve life and death on the other side. Do you think it diffused the tension that you were on your knees?
We know it did. We know it did. Everyone there said it did. If you look back now, I'll give you a perfect example. There is a reporter from one of our newspapers that I probably don't know if there's another person in the world that he dislikes more than me. I don't care for whatever reason. He just does not like me being the sheriff, and he does everything he can to badmouth me. And he just did an op-ed saying how wrong it is for them to attack me on this, because I'm the only law enforcement officer at the time, leader, that saved my city. And he said he doesn't care. He doesn't necessarily, one way or the other, he doesn't believe me or not believe me. He just knows that I made the right decisions at the right time in that moment, and I protected our city. And he even says it hurts him to even say that because he doesn't like me. But in that particular situation, I did the right thing. And I will tell you, from a leadership perspective, I was leading both sides there. And do you know it at the time? No, you don't. But my being, my ability to be a leader is leading both sides. Those 3 organizers of that event were not against me. They were doing everything they could to work with me to make sure that they got what they wanted, to make sure that they were able to protest.
And maybe part of them asking you to kneel to pray, but that sign of almost a sense of solidarity that they wanted you to show for the good people in the crowd, for them to feel like, yes, they got me, they got our message. Now we can disband. I mean, yes. I wonder if that was part of like almost like a diplomatic thing that they were trying to do with you all.
It may
to try
be.
to prevent some of the more violent folks from taking advantage of the crowd's zeal.
It may be, and there's even proof that that could be it, because they were kneeling too.
Oh,
So-
they kneeled too.
Oh, absolutely.
The BLM people kneeled.
Yes.
I
So
think
were
that's
they
an
kneeling
important
to me?
distinction that you guys were both kneeling.
Yes. They weren't kneeling to me. They're not going to say they were kneeling to me. We were kneeling to pray. And
So both sides kneeled.
yes,
Do you have any regrets
none.
of how you handled that situation?
None. We set the tone for the country to end those riots. And knowing now the riots that happened in LA recently about ICE, and they were coming to Riverside. The groups and the websites and the instant message or the social media sites were directing them to Riverside. And then came the warnings from the organizers. We advise you not to go there. Specifically, they said, and I have it, I could read it to word for word, but it's, you are going to Riverside County, and Riverside County is controlled by Sheriff Chad Bianco. We cannot help you there. If you do go there, do not go around anyone in a tan and green uniform, and avoid county buildings and county controlled cities. That's what they told the protesters, because I set the tone. They know exactly where they fit in the public safety realm. You can protest, but you're not going to be violent. We've had several protests, and they are very peaceful. They are very calm. They come out and they do their protest for an hour, and then they leave. But the riots, the violence is never going to come to Riverside County. So
how is your policy different? How do you talk about your policy being different, if at all, from Steve Hilton's? I know you're talking about leadership, your positioning, your experience. So you've talked about that. But do you have any differences in policies that voters should know about?
No, because I came out with all of my policies in February, and then in April, he repeated all of them. So there is nothing different. Mine is more bold, because I know exactly what I can do. I know exactly why California is broken. I know exactly how we can fix it. And I know that I have the leadership to do it, the desire and the leadership ability to do it. So he's claiming that he's going to lower taxes for those that make less than $100,000. I'm going to eliminate state income tax for everyone. I'm going to make us 100% oil independent in California.
Wait a minute. You want to eliminate all state income tax?
By
Because
the
there's
time
several
I
other
leave,
states that do this,
10.
which is amazing. 10 other
There's 10.
U.S. states have no income tax.
Yes.
How are you going to?
We're going to be the 11th.
I love that. I mean, sounds good to me. How are you going to pay? How are we going to pay the bills?
Oil.
And how are we
The
going to get
same way
those?
Texas does, the same way Alaska does, the same way the Dakotas do, the same way everybody else that has oil does it. We have more oil than anyone.
Aren't they shutting down a refinery as
They
we
are.
speak?
Our California government is forcing oil out of our state. And here's
It's
the reality.
billions of dollars we're bleeding, right,
Billions.
when we do that.
Billions, probably hundreds of billions. Whether you like or want to be green or save the environment, we all want to save the environment. As God-fearing people, as God-believing people,
Yes.
we are called to save the environment. We are called to protect what we are given. And we are going to do that the same way every other state in the country does. But California is not going to live in a Pollyanna world where we're going to save the world on Californians' backs where no one else is doing anything. The rest of the country is doing what they should be doing to save the environment. But California does it on steroids. And it's basically just punishing us for living in California, taking away our money. So oil is not bad. We have been lied to and said that oil is bad. And the reality of oil is oil runs the world. And oil will run the world for the next 100 years. We're never going to run out. We're not going to run out. It's not a resource that is being eliminated. We have far more oil than we will ever use. California has more heavy crude than any place in the world.
Wow.
And we're fourth in sweet crude. And yet we import 80% of our oil. There is a benefit to drilling your own, because when you drill your own, the oil company pays the state a fee. For every gallon they drill, they pay a fee to the state. The 80% coming in pays absolutely nothing.
So when oil is being drilled in California, as if it is, it's already paying fees.
Yes,
So when you
right
lose-
now it is.
When you and are those fees enough to replace, if we let all the
Yes.
companies back in to drill here, would that be enough to replace abolishing income tax for? Really?
Yes.
That's crazy,
we
because we
were-
would now become an exporter of oil.
Yes.
Wow.
If we were oil independent in California, the money generated from drilling our own oil and using our own oil completely funds state government.
So what are the environmental realities if we were to do this, become more oil, not just independent, but now we're an oil power, we're exporting it, we're making money off of it, it's funding our state. What are the like real world experiences that people might have in terms of, is it going to pollute our environment more?
It is going to do absolutely nothing.
Really?
Absolutely nothing. We have been lied to. We have been misled. We have been abused by activists, by climate activists, by environmental activists that have been controlling the entire state of California at our expense.
It won't have any negative impact on our oceans.
None. It's actually going to be a better impact. If you care about the environment and you care about green and you care about your whole carbon footprint, it is far worse for the world and California that we get our oil from the Middle East, because they have zero restrictions, zero regulations. They're just doing whatever it is they're doing in the Middle East to get as much oil as they can to sell it to us. Then we load it onto ships and then ship all that oil over here. The carbon footprint is 10 times, 100 times worse than if we drilled our own oil from California. They want you to believe, they're going to, the left, when they attack me for this, they're going to show you pictures of the Middle East. They're going to show you pictures of Venezuela. They're going to show you pictures of these horrific, horrible things that are happening to the environment and make you believe that it's oil in California. And it's not.
Can we drill, though, that physical amounts of oil while maintaining our environmental standards?
Completely.
Really?
Completely.
Can you explain that a little more for people? What are the environmental standards that we can maintain while drilling at the amount where we could fund the government, be oil independent, and export oil?
The same ones that the Dakotas have, the same one Colorado has, the same one Texas has, the same one Alaska has. So is Texas destroyed? Are any other state that is oil independent, have they been destroyed? Is Alaska destroyed? Alaska is one of the most beautiful places on the entire planet. How can that be? They're oil independent. They supply the world with oil. So how can that be? The reality is we've been lied to. We've been lied to for an agenda, and they're playing on our hearts and our emotions of us wanting to do the right thing because we're good people. And oh my gosh, we have to protect our environment. Well, okay, yes, that's right. And we're going to protect our environment. We're not going to just allow unfettered drilling and oil flowing down the sidewalk. I mean, that's not going to happen.
Where is the oil in California? Just for people's knowledge.
Predominantly Kern County, but then also there's tons of oil reserves along the coast. So the Central Valley, from probably like San Bernardino, the edge of San Bernardino County north, all through Kern County, all through the Central Valley, tons and tons and tons of oil reserves. And then even along our coastline, there's oil everywhere, really. But the majority of the big deposits are Kern County and our coastal areas.
So does that mean we would see drilling on the beach?
No, absolutely not. We have several offshore drilling wells now that have been there for a long time. They've just shut them down.
You don't really see them even.
Yeah. I mean, you can see them. You don't really know what they are. It's like, oh, I wonder what that is. It's a big platform out there in the ocean, but the reality is,
and then I think there's this, like, again, these are the climate activists stories that can instill fear. But there's an oil spill, and now our beautiful Pacific Ocean.
We have to take care of it. Yeah. We have to take care of it, and we absolutely do. The same way Texas does, the same way every other state that drills oil, they do the same thing. There's no one in those states complaining. There's no one in the rest of the country complaining that Texas uses its own oil. Texas just benefits from it.
Yes.
Texans love it. Alaskans love it. If you live in Alaska, you get paid for being an Alaskan at the end of the year because of the revenue generated from oil.
Does Alaska have no income tax?
No income tax.
And
then they get a check at the end of the year.
Wow.
Because of oil. Because of oil.
That's wild.
Right. That's what Texas is. It's I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm just allowing. It sounds too good
to be true.
Well, I will tell you, I also, during this campaign, one of my big issues is convincing conservative Republicans to stop being so pessimistic.
Wow.
We are the most pessimistic people everywhere. Everything is always, I believe you. I believe you. But I think the average person, we're not conditioned for that. We're not conditioned for it.
Yes. We think, it's hell in a handbasket. And I hate this when people say that California is impossible to change it. It's locked in. It's just going downhill. I said, Why does it always, leadership is what can change it.
Right.
Leadership is what can
Right.
make people change their behavior, you can't change your behavior if you don't have a different vision.
Yeah.
And I think you casting a vision of what's possible is half the battle.
Yeah. I'll give you a perfect example outside of the environment. I love the environment. I want my kids to enjoy California, everything about it. I want them to enjoy the beach. I want them to enjoy their mountains. I want them to enjoy their valleys. I want them to enjoy the food that California grows. Everything about California, I want my grandkids and my kids to enjoy. I don't want them going to another state to do it. I want them doing it here. So I do care about the environment. I do care about what our world looks like, what our country looks like, what our state looks like. I don't want black skies. I don't want oil running down the sidewalk. I don't want any of those things. And we'll make sure that never, ever happens, just like other places are doing. Perfect example is wildlife. And California's wildlife is being absolutely destroyed by animal activism.
How so?
We have a hands-off approach to wildlife in California. Particularly, a perfect example is wolves. So wolves are extinct in California. Well, people that like looking at wolves in magazines, living in San Francisco, decided that they wanted wolves back into, because how horrible people are, that we made wolves extinct. Well, we didn't really make them extinct. They still live everywhere, just not in California, because we live here. And we are the predominant species.
Justice for the wolves.
And wolves
Sheriff.
didn't want to be around us. So wolves moved away. They went far north into the more secluded areas and everything else. So Californians decide that they want, not Californians, the majority of Californians don't want them. But the politicians decide that they're going to bring wolves back.
Did we import wolves back in? Where did we put them?
We put them in Northern California, Shasta County, Siskiyou County, those northern county, the northern counties in our state in the mountains. So now their ranches are being destroyed by wolves eating cows, eating all the livestock. Now they're killing their horses. They're killing their dogs. They're missing animals from all over. The deer and the elk herds are being completely decimated by an overpopulation of lions, bears, and now wolves. A true wildlife management program manages that wildlife so all of them thrive. You can't have an unlimited amount of mountain lions in California. You do. And that's wildlife management. That's what I want. I know that in order for us to have deer so everybody can see, and elk and bears and mountain lions and wolves, we have to manage all of them. And it's not a hands-off approach. But we are controlled by activists. That's who runs our state. Activists, lawyers, and those activism groups control our state. And so all of us we're suffering the consequences of that. And we just have to put common sense into it. Common sense has to be put back into how we manage every aspect of our state.
What would you do differently? Now we're talking about your differences with obviously the Democrats, big time here. So we're talking about the environment. We're talking about the economy and how you would just transform that by removing the income tax.
We remove taxes. We remove regulation that's causing fees and businesses to flee. And we have a regulatory process in California that's been weaponized by lawyers and activism groups to prevent growth. That's truly what they represent, is no growth. There can be no home building. There can be no businesses. There can be no new businesses, no expanding of cities, no new cities. Everything has to be what we already have, which is why they want every place to just be built straight up. Everybody live in an apartment. You don't get to have your own house anymore. You have to live in an apartment where we tell you to live. That's activism, and it has to stop. That's not American. That's not Californian. That's not what we all want, and it has to absolutely stop.
What about these issues that I, quite frankly, as a parent, find terrifying coming down the pike? Like children become basically wards of the state effectively, and if they decide they're trans at 9 years old, you can lose custody if you're not affirming their new trans identity, and you're not allowed to take your child to counseling if they're struggling with same-sex attraction. I mean, this is already the state law in California. They call it conversion therapy. I've had on these so-called conversion therapists. They're actually just counselors who are helping people navigate, why do you experience same-sex attraction? What does it mean? So there's all of this
It's insane.
social engineering when it comes to our children and healthcare. And they're saying parents aren't allowed to basically be parents anymore.
Yeah, absolutely not. Government doesn't have kids. They have no ability to have kids. Parents have kids, and parents raise their kids. It's parents' responsibility to decide what goes into their kid's body, how their kids think, how their kids are raised, their values, their beliefs. All of those things are the parents' responsibility, not the government's. And the government doesn't get to take your kids away and then decide to teach them something different while at the same time telling them to keep secrets from you as a parent. As a cop, I am telling you right now, and as a dad, there is absolutely nothing more terrifying than another adult telling a child to keep a secret from a parent. That ethically, morally, criminally, everything about it is 100% wrong. And that's the agenda, and that's the mission of California state government in our education system. And it absolutely ends with me as your governor. Absolutely ends.
What about education?
Our
Public school education, our education system is, there's a lot of complaints about California's education. There's also concerns about vaccine policies where families are being told that unless they fulfill this schedule, even the CDC came out with a new schedule and California's like, screw you. We're going to give them all hepatitis B, the kids.
Yeah. That's going to end.
What's your take on all that?
That's going to end. You are not going to have to vaccinate your kids to get them into school. That is up to a parent what happens to their child.
What they think is best for their kid.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If they want the child to be protected in that way, they can choose that. If they don't want that, then they don't need to do that.
And for all of the detractors that are looking at me saying how I'm not a doctor, I actually just pay attention to doctors and scientists and everything else. And there's just as many doctors and scientists that are saying that we are being harmed and killed by medical intervention, by vaccines, by treatments, by whatever the case, as doctors and scientists on the other side that are saying how necessary it is. So when that happens, that's what trusting the science is you learn both sides and you trust what the science is. And if you trust the science that is saying that these vaccines are causing autism, these vaccines are causing death, these vaccines are causing all of these issues, then you decide whether or not your child is going to get those vaccines with informed consent of what the consequences are of not only not getting the vaccine, but also getting the vaccine. But that is your job and your right as a parent. It's not up to the government, because the government is nothing but a political agenda. That's all the government is a political agenda. And we are not taking away the rights of parents, the ability of parents to be parents, just simply because we have a different agenda of where we want society going.
So it sounds like you're not anti-vaccine per se. You're not saying you can't get vaccines if you want to, et cetera. You're just saying parents need to have the choice.
Yes, I am not anti-vaccine. You get to decide. I'm not taking a vaccine. I'm not putting that in my body. If it's my child, that's not going in my child's body. We will be healthy. We will do all of those things, but I'm not putting that substance in my child's body. That's what I'm in favor of. And for you, if you believe that everything is all legitimate and you want to take those risks and you believe that it's more beneficial for you or your child, then that's your right to do that too. So I'm not anti-vaccine. I'm anti-vaccine for me and my family, but not you and your family if that's what you decide.
What about pregnancy resource centers and the pro-life issue? So right now, California is spending money on abortion. It's disgusting. Yeah. They're saying Gavin Newsom created this abortion destination state. Literally, I'm going to pay for, he set up billboards in other states.
Yeah.
In 2022.
Yeah.
And he said, we will pay for you to fly to California. We're going to pay for your abortion. And then California Democratic leadership has gone after pregnancy resource centers that are providing free confidential care to moms and babies in need, free diapers, free prenatal care, all these things. You have to post abortion advertisements. This went to the Supreme Court, by the way. Becerra, who I think is on the ticket too. He's running for governor too. He's crazy. He was the attorney general. He tried to force the pregnancy resources. Xavier Becerra tried to force pregnancy centers to do this. He lost in the Supreme Court. What's your view on all of this?
So I support those in my county. I have spoken at their events. I have given money to them.
The pregnancy resource centers.
Yes. And it is name one other elective surgery, elective medical procedure that taxpayers pay for. There's nothing. There's nothing. If you want a facelift, go get a facelift, but you're paying for it. Your insurance isn't going to pay for it. My taxpayer dollars are not going to pay for it. Healthcare, why? Number one, it's not healthcare. I do not believe that an abortion is healthcare. That's one of those play on words that, of course, I can't take healthcare away from someone, but it's not healthcare. It's birth control. You're using abortion as birth control. Why am I paying for your birth control? If
And
you
it's
want to
ending an
pay for
innocent
it,
human
fine.
life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you want to pay for it, fine. We unfortunately made it the law here. And if that's the way you're going to choose, if you're not going to have the same beliefs as I am, that's okay. But I'm not agreeing with yours, and I'm not paying for your decisions. There will not be, as a governor, I will not fund Planned Parenthood. And I know that Planned Parenthood is not all about just abortions. I know there's birth control and everything else, but why am I paying for your birth control? I mean, we have plenty of resources available of birth control there's plenty of ways not to have a baby.
The number one way is you don't have sex if you're not married and ready to have a baby.
And why aren't we talking about that?
We don't talk about that. We
No.
think people are animals when they're not. They have free will.
We have them in school teaching third graders how to have sex.
It's very, very diabolical in my view.
It is. That's not going to happen with me as your governor.
How is it going to work if you're governor, sheriff, when you're dealing with a legislature that is likely going to be radically opposed to you?
They will.
And you're dealing with, when it comes to abortion's right now enshrined in the state constitution. So you have this like block that the Democrats have just built, this iron box of all of these, quite frankly, many of them evils, right? And these agendas.
But I control the budget. And a constitutional right isn't something that is funded. We don't fund your constitutional rights. I firmly believe in the Second Amendment. It's my right to have and own guns. The government's not buying me guns. So why is another acclaimed constitutional right, why is that being funded? It shouldn't be funded. And I mean, if you're going to say, and maybe an agreement, if they're going to say that, the legislature is going to say that they want this in the budget and they're not going to agree to anything else, it's like, okay, whatever you want for your mission, we're putting the same amount of money in the pregnancy centers that help women or help couples deal with, maybe they weren't ready to have a baby, but now we're going to help them be successful. We're going to help them raise their child. We're going to help them with medical and all those things. And we'll put the same amount of money. Why is it nothing? And that side is shunned and called names, but the other side is funded? It doesn't make any sense.
How are you going to negotiate if you're governor with the crazies in Sacramento? I mean, how are you going to do it?
I'm involved with them now anyway. Mm-hmm. And people don't like hearing this and they don't like to believe it because we're so broken. But I know that there's probably only about 20 seriously broken people in Sacramento. Unfortunately, they're the ones running everything. Yes. And the governor's office and the attorney general's office.
You're saying a lot of the other people, including the Democrats, are decent people.
They are middle of the road, decent
with.
People that do not believe in the agenda. The problem is they have no cover above them.
Wow.
And I tell them, some of them, I've told them, you're not leaders. You're not doing what you were elected here to come and do. And their answer is you have to get along. And if I can't help my constituents, if I don't go along with their agenda because I won't get the money or the help or my bills won't get passed. And it's like bully tactics, kind of. You support us or you're not getting anything. And if you go against us, we're going to destroy you. But it's only coming from a handful of people there, maybe less than 20. When you have a governor that is now on the page of sanity, that we are not going to do these ridiculous things, then those middle of the road people have something to stand up to. They have something to help them. They will side with the Republicans. The Republicans will side with some of the moderate Democrats. And then you stand up to the 20 that are making all of the rules and you just override them. And then you have a governor that supports you. There are plenty of Democrats in Sacramento that want safety for their families, that don't believe in indoctrination, that don't want forced vaccines. There are plenty of them. This idea that Democrats have to hate Republicans and that we have to believe in everything on the Democrat side, if you have to believe that you're, a socialist just because you want to be a Democrat or say you're a Democrat, is not true. There are plenty of middle of the road Democrats.
If you become governor, can you say now that you would not fund abortions?
Never.
You're not going to use taxpayer dollars for abortions.
I most certainly could say that. Yes.
Thank you. I know lots of people are going to be excited to fight for your campaign because of that. Because it's just, of all the insults that have been levied against the people of California, that we're now complicit in bloodshed and we're paying for it. And it's just deteriorating the state even more. It's just devastating.
We're supposedly broke. Well, we know we're broke. We're in debt. We have debt like you cannot believe. The state budget has, the committee, the state budget office has said that the governor's budget is setting us up for failure for the next 5 years. And that, to the point where they said that the next governor is going to fail, has no ability to operate government. Why would he do that if he thought that a Democrat was going to win? He wouldn't. He knows I'm going to win, and he's going to try and sabotage everything about state government. So we're broke. We're in debt in the millions, if not billions. It's billions in debt. And yet he can miraculously come up with $100 million for abortions.
And we're already funding it through Medicaid.
Right.
So why do you think you're going to win? You keep saying you're going to win. You know you're going to win. You believe you can win. The same
reason why we're seeing me leading every poll, because people are over it. People, even Democrats have told me, I don't really believe in everything you say, but I know you have to win because we are broken. We are going in the wrong direction. There has to be drastic change. And I believe you're going to make the right decisions for California. And then they'll throw out, but you can't do this and you can't do this. But we know you're going to make the right decisions for California. That's the people that are behind my campaign. It's not
just
the Republican.
You have Democrats behind your campaign.
And independents. I've been endorsed already by the American Independent Party. So the middle of the road people know that I'm going to be the only one making this change. California, when you look at everything that's broken in California, crime is rampant. We are not safe here. Our kids aren't safe. Our businesses aren't safe. The homeless issues are just out off the hook. The drugs, the alcohol abuse, the mental health addiction, those causing psychosis and seeing what we see in the streets. Everything is broken about public safety. It's not necessarily safe. People don't feel safe in California anymore. Now combine that with what we're seeing, that we're the most corrupt state in the country, with the abuse of our money, the fraudulent abuse of our money, the stealing of our taxpayer money, the laundering through these nonprofits and NGOs that are getting unbelievably wealthy and then getting the same people elected again with the money going in the back door. And they're looking for the rest of the state. The people that are propping me up in all of these polls want a sheriff to go in here and fix our state. Go fix our public safety, make us safe, and go stop the waste, the fraud, the abuse, and the corruption in our state government. That's what they're looking for. And it's not even me saying it. They have 32 years of proof. I'm the only person on this ballot that is proof of concept. They can tell you anything they want. Democrats are proof of concept.
Has Eric Swalwell ever had a job?
I don't think so.
Besides being
I don't think so.
And Katie Porter, what did she do?
Yeah.
I mean, it is kind of crazy to think about.
She's a teacher or a professor or something.
Okay, teacher.
But I'll use that as a poster child.
She's been in politics now for a decade, right?
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, and horrible at it. I mean, she didn't do a good job.
She yells at her staff, right?
Yes, she does.
We'll see. If she was willing to come on the show, I'll ask her to explain that. I asked you the tough questions about your thing that, you get accused of. Yeah. So we'll ask about those questions if those folks will come in here. I'm
as transparent as you can get. I mean, I've been through 3 elections, 4 elections as a sheriff. This is the 4th, in state government. If there's anything bad about me, everybody knows it. There's nothing bad about me. It's going to be made up. This whole thing, this concocted, fabricated story of the honest, ethical leader has been concocted to attack that. So another Republican who's failing in his campaign, he can't go above me. So he's trying to lower me. I mean, that's really how it works. And in the campaign world, in politics, everyone knows that you only attack your opponent if you're losing. And so now we know that he's absolutely losing. He knows he's losing. So now he has to attack me. He even attacked Mahan.
Who do you think is going to be number 2? If you're number 1 on June 2nd, who do you think is going to be? Who do you think your opponent is going to be this fall?
If I had to say just off of the trajectory and how things are working in the polls, I would have to say Swalwell.
I can't. It's hard to imagine California voting for Swalwell over you, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't think they will. I think when we get to policy and when we get to where it truly is going to be one concept versus the other concept.
Yes.
I represent everything that Californians want different, and he represents the status quo or worse.
Yes.
And so when I go into November, that's really going to be the difference, is the Democrat policy in California is indefensible. There's not one thing that they can point to in California to say, look, we're a success. Point to a city where they've been successful. Point to the train to nowhere where they're successful. I mean, everything about the Democrat progressive agenda in California is a failure. And I represent everything opposite. And that's what the November election is going to be. So this June election is just making sure that I'm number one or number two. We believe I'm going to be number one just based off of numbers and who we think is going to vote for me. And then we'll worry about November when it comes to it. But when it comes down to picking between change and status quo worse, we think that Californians over it.
I think we're ready for change in California. Sheriff Chad Bianco, thank you so much. How can people find your campaign and learn more about you?
Thank you. I would have been in trouble if I had not said that. My campaign would have killed me. BiancoForGovernor.com is the easiest way. You can sign up for information. You can sign up to help. We have cool merch. You can buy merch from the campaign website. And then every single social media platform is Sheriff Chad Bianco. Please like my pages, follow my pages, and share all of the things that I post. Some of it's funny. Read it before you share it. But it's great information, and it's a way to get the word out that's relatively free.
Thank you so much, Sheriff. Good luck, and we hope to have you back on.
Thank you. Absolutely.
A big thank you to our channel partner, EWTN. EWTN is the world's largest religious broadcast network, reaching millions of people every single day with the beautiful truth of the gospel. You can be the first to watch new Lila Rose Show episodes 24 hours before YouTube over at EWTN.com/on-demand and on the EWTN app.